that the Obama administration appointed a federal monitor. Totally wrong. I appointed a federal monitor.
A retired federal judge says both Joe Biden and Michael Bloomberg lied on the issue of stop and frisk at the Nevada Democratic debate. So let me show you this clip. This is Judge Shira Scheindlin on MSNBC.
Mayor Bloomberg said, when I realized it was bad toward the end, I ended it and it dropped 95%. That is not accurate. In the last 2 years or so, it began to drop dramatically. It dropped 67%, not 95%. But it wasn't because he realized, had an epiphany that it was wrong. It's because of the court rulings. That's what happened.
Right.
I ruled.
And Joe Biden said that the Obama administration stopped it. I thought you stopped it.
Yes,
was Joe Biden correct or not?
Of course he's not. You got in just ahead of me. I was going to say that Vice President Biden was totally
Lucky I'm not in your courtroom.
That's right. He said that the Obama administration appointed a federal monitor. Totally wrong. I appointed a federal monitor in August of 2013 who didn't take office for 10 months because Mayor Bloomberg insisted on trying to appeal my ruling and getting it overturned.
So simply put, Joe Biden, in your view, took credit for something that judges actually did.
Absolutely.
This is awesome. And this lady, this judge, is also awesome. I love that she's discussing this openly. She doesn't care. She's just out there with the truth. This is what I like to see. And think about it. If this was anybody else, if Bernie Sanders made this lie, it would be huge news. We'd all be talking, oh my God, the media would be going crazy. Bernie Sanders lying. Bernie Sanders, a federal judge has corrected Bernie Sanders for lying about taking credit for something he did not do. Here, it's a tweet. I saw this tweet. It's not really a big news. I saw this tweet, and this is the story. Like, again, it shows you how the media treats different candidates in different ways. But here she's calling out both Bloomberg and Joe Biden. And someone else, I also just found this on Twitter. This is Blake Zeff, who tweets out, in 2012, I sat on a stop and frisk task force in the New York Attorney General office that reviewed the police tactic under Mayor Bloomberg. Last night, Mr. Bloomberg said he inherited the policy, had apologized for it, and chose to cut it by 95%. Here's a timeline of facts. Mr. Bloomberg stated he inherited the stop and frisk policy. While it began with GOP Mayor Rudy Giuliani, it was significantly expanded by Mr. Bloomberg, starting with 97,296 stops in 2002 and climbing steadily until a record 685,724 New York City men were stopped in 2011. I may not read all these tweets because there's 12 of them, but let's see what else is here. In 2012, Bloomberg's NYPD made more stops of young black men, 168,126 than the number of young black men living in the city, 158,000, and 9 in 10 of those stopped by New York City PD were ultimately found innocent of any crime each year from 2003 to 2013. What? Like, it's insane. Imagine living, and maybe some of you did live in New York during this time and experience this. Just incredible that this went on for as long as it did. Mayor Bloomberg's officers testified that reasons to be stopped and frisked included being fidgety, changing directions, walking a certain way, grabbing at a pocket, or looking over one's shoulder. These were officially called furtive movements. All of this is subjective. And these are all things that I do. I'm telling you right now, when I go for a walk, when I'm outside walking around, I do all these things. I'm fidgety. I change directions oftentimes. I definitely walk a certain way, whatever the hell that means. Grab my pocket, look over my shoulder. I do all of these things. Incredible. Those stopped by the NYPD during this time described the encounters as invasive, humiliating, and in some cases violent. Being stopped on the way home from church or school, or getting their work clothes dirty because they were forced to lie face down on a filthy sidewalk. Mr. Bloomberg repeatedly defended the tactic, arguing crime would soar without it. In 2013, he said, if you don't want to be stopped, don't look like a suspect. In 2012, he said, we're not going to walk away from the tactic because, quote, we would lose control of our streets. Even though crime went down when they got rid of it, under the next mayor, under de Blasio. Recently, Mr. Bloomberg told CBS, nobody asked me about stop and frisk till I started running for president. Total friggin' lie. A Daily News editorial called the claim idiotic, obviously, adding this was the highest stakes legal fight of the mayor's 12-year tenure. Oh my God. This is why I'm telling you, if Bloomberg steals the nomination, I will actively tell you not to vote. At least not vote for the top of the ticket. You can vote down ballot for Democrats, but do not vote for the top of the ticket. Mr. Bloomberg says he reduced the practice by 95%. In fact, stops rose. Did I just read this? No, there's more to this. In fact, stops rose steadily from 2002 to 2011 before a real drop in 2013. That year, a class action lawsuit filed against Mr. Bloomberg led a federal judge to rule the policy unconstitutional, which Mr. Bloomberg would appeal, of course. In 2014, a year after Mr. Bloomberg left office, there was a 79% drop in stops from the previous year. The result, crime continued to fall by 4.6%, reaching a record low in modern New York City history at the time. More details here. Again, Michael Bloomberg always talks about, oh, stop and frisk brought the crime down. Nope. When they stopped the practice, crime was still falling. Did I read this? A few years later, in August 2016, the Daily News, one of Mr. Bloomberg's staunchest editorial allies, issued a formal apology for its long-standing defense of the practice, saying, "We were wrong. Ending stop and frisk did not end stopping crime." In January 2019, Mr. Bloomberg continued to issue a full-throated defense of the tactic, attributing the city's declining murder rate to the controversial policy at the 2019 U.S. Naval Academy Leadership Conference. Last tweet here. 3 months ago, Mr. Bloomberg changed his long-held position, telling a black audience in Brooklyn, "I want you to know I realized that back then I was wrong and I'm sorry." 7 days later, Bloomberg declared his candidacy for the Democratic nomination for president. Apologizing finally when it's convenient. Right before you announce your candidacy is when you apologize, means you don't actually care. I guarantee you, Michael Bloomberg still privately thinks he was correct to have this policy because this is his worldview. This is how he thinks. And it's good to see a federal judge here, as I showed you earlier, correct the record on this.